apologize for being late for my first committee meeting, a CPOC committee meeting. I apologize. First order of business is the approval of the minutes from our last meeting on December 19th.
I move the minutes be adopted. Second.
Any questions, comments, changes? There being none, all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. I'll now move forward with Linda Kleinbaum. Will go start the presentation regarding the committee work plan.
There are no significant changes to the work plan. For March, we changed some of the language relative to Long Island Railroad presentations. What they'll be doing in March is a presentation on the Long Island Railroad Jamaica capacity improvements. Otherwise, the work plan stands.
I move we adopt the work plan, of course, until we change it next month. Second.
Now we move along to the New York City Transit Board. Leonard.
Thank you, everybody. Good afternoon. I'm here to provide an update on our efforts to provide train arrival information for the B Division. Following the successful implementation of countdown clocks in our PA system on the A Division, we were requested to explore options for providing countdown clocks or train arrival information along the B Division. A number of groups within New York City Transit have responded to those efforts, and we're attempting to explore alternatives to providing this. The A Division has the advantage of having a new automated train supervision system and an integrated PA system. These two systems together provide the ability to provide countdown clocks at all of our stations. Unfortunately, the B Division does not have that advantage and has older and non-standardized PA systems along it. Due to funding constraints, it is unlikely that we will have a full ATS system on the B Division for the foreseeable future. This is limiting our ability to provide a unified solution for the B Division. As stated, the different groups within New York City Transit worked on developed different solutions based upon alternative technologies. We've developed 5 technology pilots that we are currently working on. 2 of them have been completed and have been successfully rolled out at 45 stations, primarily on the A and the C line and the Queens line. Unfortunately, due to the lack of ATS system, we're only providing train arrival stations away messaging along the A and the C line. There are 3 other pilots in progress that are proceeding, and they all show good promise. There's 2 major constraints, though. One of them is the fact that that any solution must be able to provide reliable, dependable, repeatable information to our customers. In working on those solutions, we have exceeded the original $1.5 million estimate. That is due to several factors. Number one, the original concept for the pilots was we were only going to provide approximately 20 to 25 stations. We have now completed 45, and we expect to have approximately 50 at the end of the pilot phase. The wiring and the implementation of the pilots that we have completed was far more labor intensive than we were expecting. Much more work was required, and upgrades to the existing public address system processors was required. But the money is not wasted. We have implemented, and those pilots continue to run. Our plans at this point are to complete the pilots by the end of the second quarter and perform an evaluation of the 5 pilots and the technologies. We've developed a set of evaluation criteria. Obviously, cost per station, dependability, accuracy are all among the prime movers. Once we've completed that evaluation, we'll be taking the recommended technologies, probably 2, at most 3, into a design phase, and we'll attempt to roll it out to the entire B Division coupled with upgrades and implementations of public address systems along the B division. That's my report if there are any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. How prohibitive is the full ATS installation cost?
I'm not sure. Do you want to respond to that, Fred?
Give a rough order of magnitude cost.
When we
Fred.
started out on the A division, and the project began back in 1999, that was about $150 million, which represents 1/3 of the system. So escalate that and more than double the territory. So our last estimate was in the $400 million range. However, what is limiting us to be able to proceed with an ATSB only strategy is the fact that the underlying signal system, our interlockings throughout the B division, most of them on the IND are still original, so they're 70-plus years old. So we still need to address the condition of the signal equipment in the interlocking areas to go hand in hand with the ATSB project.
And the integration with the RCC, is that a separate problem, or is that just part of this prohibitive cost that we're talking about?
Well, when the RCC facility, the Rail Control Center, was designed, it allowed for the B division. So there is space in the RCC for the B division project. However, we would need to have a project that basically fit out that portion of the theater for the B division.
If I could add, I mean, if we were to follow the same path, there's two that we did on the A division. It would be not only cost prohibitive, it would take too long. So we're looking at these alternatives for providing train tracking. And then I've also asked the staff to take a look at some method of getting that same level of information back to the control center. We do not want to be in a position where the level of information in the field exceeds the level of information at the control center. That's just backwards. We just can't do that. So we're looking for other means of being able to provide that level of information to the control center at 54th Street.
I'm sure that your prioritization is correct, Tom, and but you know, we're customer centric, and to be at this stage in time and not have robust communications within our vast system, I find very, very unfortunate, I have to tell you.
Well,
And $450 million relative to the billions of dollars that we're spending on megas, I just hate to see the white flag flying on this.
we haven't given up, but the point is, and we do need to get that level of information to the control center.
Andrew?
I assume that your goal is to not only tell customers how far away the train is, but which train it is as well as on the A division?
Wherever possible, that is part of it. That is one of the constraints on the pilot that we implemented that makes that technology more unsatisfactory than we prefer. So the other pilots that we are attempting should have richer information, and that's part of our testing.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yes.
I wonder if one of the two of you could give me some personal advice here. At a public meeting here 3 years ago, at which Tom was a witness, I entered into a bet with Jim Ferrara, the head of Bridges and Tunnels, that you would be completed having countdown signs in all stations in the system before he was done with having gateless toll collecting on all of the MTA Bridges and Tunnels facilities. How am I doing?
You better start covering your bet.
Don't double down?
No,
Okay,
don't double
thank
down.
you.
How much? Yes, sir. Yes, Mr. Paley.
To have 2 or 3 different systems operating at the same time? Is that what I'm reading here?
what you would have is potentially 2 or 3 different technologies being utilized to provide a unified system. It is a matter of how we acquire the information of where the train is, what line it is, and where it is proceeding to. It would be presented to the customer in a unified manner,
Right, okay.
but how we apply it, how we receive the information. For instance, for above ground stations, we see a good potential for using a GPS-based system. That would obviously not work underground. So we're looking at different alternatives to fit the needs and the scenarios of the particular station and locations.
So to the customer, it's the same. How the information gets to that station or to that customer at the station is maybe different depending upon the characteristics of the station or the signaling going to the station.
That is the goal, yes.
But nobody asked the question about what granularity meant, but that's literally what you're talking about. The goal is to have it be exactly the same as what they
Right.
see in the A division. I can tell you it's going to be very difficult to make it exactly the same because of the technical issues involved.
Well, but let me ask you this way then. Is leaving the A system, A division aside for the moment, is the intent that everything in the B division would be the same or as close to the same as possible, even though that might be somewhat different than what's in the A division?
Yes.
That's the goal.
That's our goal.
Yes.
That's the goal.
Whether it's achievable in every location is
Okay.
the constraint, but that is our goal.
Okay, thank you.
Except for the fact that you have CBTC on the L line, for instance, it's not going to be as good as that, obviously, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Anyone else? No? Thank you, Leonard. Now a report on signals and train control. Nitish?
Okay. Good afternoon. I'm Nitish Patel, Program Officer for Signal and Train Control. Today I will brief you on the status of 3 ongoing communication-based control projects. The first project is for the Canarsie line. The project equipped additional trains with the CBTC equipment and removed the old signals and associated equipment. Since my last presentation, I'm proud to announce that the Canarsie line is operating in full ATO mode without using any old signaling system. The project is on schedule for substantial completion of March 2012. A budget modification is in progress to address the need for additional engineering force account and TA labor funding. We also recently completed data collection for the speed measurement system. This system doesn't require the free axle, and this system will help us, the new speed measurement system will help us to implement the CBTC on the B division because we're planning to use all the existing train for the B division CBTC, so we don't have to modify any train and create any free axle. So this will help us to deploy CBTC in a cost-effective manner. We anticipate achieving substantial completion on schedule. There are additional general orders are planned already, weekend GOs, and we planning to use it to complete the removal of all the old signaling system with associated equipment. I just want to tell you that in the past, I think you asked me to provide the CBTC benefits and the maintenance comparison. And now where we have removed all the old signaling system, I think I will start collecting the data on the operating side and the maintenance side. We'll work with the MOW. And in the next meeting, I'll be able to provide the information on the actual versus the anticipated data.
What do you do with the removed signal system?
Once all the automatic signals are removed, and most of the old signaling systems are 70, 80 years old, containing all the asbestos, so we're going to discard as asbestos-containing material. The relays...
But isn't that the system you're using everywhere else at this point?
There's some elements of the system you can use in stock and return to stock.
Some relays and other things we removed, and we're going to give it to the user department for the spare parts.
What's typical on our contracts is we invite the maintenance department to come and inspect the equipment that's being removed and let them determine what they would like to salvage. The contractor is then responsible to deliver it to our facilities. The rest they discard.
In our review of this project, we've agreed with the schedule and budget as described by Transit. We see no other critical issues. We look forward to its completion in March. The next project is the CBTC on the flushing line, and this contract has been awarded to the TELUS in June 2010.
You might want to change that slide so it says 34th Street, 11th Avenue instead of 10th Avenue.
Oh, that's correct, right. So basically, the project will deploy the CBTC on the entire line all the way to the 34th Street, and also renovate the two interlocking at the First Avenue and Times Square. I just want to make sure that I tell you that any activity of this CBTC project is not going to interfere or create any constraint to the opening of the 7 extension. So substantial completion for this project is on schedule, and we are within the budget today. The construction has been started on the various rooms, including the First Avenue relay room, and a lot of reviews are going on with the project team and the working group team also. And we anticipate achieving the final design by the second quarter of this year. There are a lot of critical milestones to talk about it, and as you can see that in the next 3 quarters are going to be very, very challenging. We're going to work with the contractor and the user department to ensure that all the design reviews are reviewed properly and approved, and we achieve the final design completion so the contractor can start the manufacturing of the CBTC equipment as soon as possible. We want to make sure that we work with the user department, car equipment, and the Kawasaki, because we want to make sure that this is a critical milestone, that the train delivery is on time, and we finalize the CBTC interface with the new train delivery is also completed on time. Now, as you see that there are so many critical milestones, so what we decided that when we awarded this job, before the award we had a risk assessment done. So what we're doing right now, we are reviewing the risk we identified before the award, and also the risk triggered during the construction phase. So we're going to work with our independent consultant and MTA folks to go through the various critical milestones and ensure that the project has the float, or if we can create any float, we're going to create that. We've reviewed the schedule and budget for this project and the description of the critical issues and find it fully agreeable.
So are all the R62As assigned to the flushing line going to be CBTC ready as well, or are those going to be gone by that time?
We using R142A, not the train.
You're going to use R1. When will that happen?
As soon as we get the CBTC interface ready, so starting 2014, we're going to put R142A slowly as CBTC gets into it, and the existing train will go to the other line. They will be used. They're not going to be discarded.
Yeah, I know.
Right. So before I move on to the last and third project on the Culver District, I just want to brief you on the CBTC International Forum. I think Fred gave you the presentation on the September CPOC board, but I also want to cover that because this will create the ground for the third project. The purpose of the forum, basically, to ensure that we talk to all the CBTC, the user, the properties using the CBTC system, and also we invited the 5 CBTC suppliers. And we went over all the CBTC lesson learned on the Canarsie line, and the goal was to create the strategy to roll out the CVTC on the future line with a cost-effective manner. So we exchanged a lot of lessons learned, and we went through a lot of strategic ideas, and based upon those ideas and the recommendation we received from the forum participants and also our independent consultant, we created the strategy moving forward, which will be the cost-effective. So here is the strategy. We're doing the flushing line, and before we move on to the B division, because on a B division we basically don't have the dedicated fleets assigned to the line. So the fleets will go from one line to another line, and we want to make sure that we don't tie with our CBTC supplier with the one or two supplier. We want multiple suppliers to provide the competition on a CBTC. So a train equipped with the one supplier CBTC definitely need to go to the other line supplied by the other supplier safely. So we need to do the safety certification and interoperability of the multiple vendors system. So that's something we talked about during the forum, and the forum basically recommended that that's the right approach to do it. Goal is to also equip the car as required before we allow the CVTC project to go on. So with that strategy in mind and the recommendation we received from the forum participant, we awarded the contract to Siemens and Thaler, because these are the two today the qualified supplier we have it, and we basically create a consortium with them to make sure that they create the system which is interoperable and safety certified. Under the same contract, they're going to provide us the integrated test facility and the culvert test track between the 4th Avenue and the Church Avenue on a B3 track, and also they're going to provide us integrated lab, and those lab and the test track will be used to qualify the additional supplier. So the completion of this contract and getting the lab and the test track are inconsistent with that. We will have the multiple supplier ready to support the B division deployment. So talk about the particular of this contract. A substantial schedule, completion is on schedule, and the project is within the budget. We awarded the contract September 2011, and the project team is in place, and they're going through various meetings to ensure that the first thing we need to do, which is to agree on the I-square, which is interoperability and interface spec. The critical milestone is to make sure that by the second quarter we have the approved I-square spec which are acceptable to our user department as well as the contractor. So this is the must thing we need to do, because both the contractor can start the manufacturing of their equipment, and also we can use that I-square spec to qualify and start negotiating with the different other CBTC suppliers, so they can also modify their system to meet our I-square specification. The test facility and the test track both are available in 2013 and 15 to ensure that we run all the tests which we require to do before we start deploying this real revenue service CBTC system on the B division. I think that concludes my presentation.
In our review of this last program, we've agreed with the schedule and budget. As the test track is the first manifestation of the grand implementation strategy for CBTC, we've recommended to Transit that they expedite completion of a formal report from that international forum held last July, so that the guidelines in that document can be established and tracked for the future of the program.
Thank you, Kent. Now we'll hear from Mark Beanstalk on our systems.
Good afternoon. My name is Mark Beanstalk. I'm the Program Officer for Systems and Security and CPM at New York City Transit. And this afternoon I'll be updating you on hopefully the completion or near completion of two of our major communications projects. The first project, the ATM network system, completes the installation of the high-speed fiber optic network in the Subway's B division. Before I go into detail about the project, just a couple of housekeeping with some terminology. ATM stands for Asynchronous Transfer Mode, and it's a technology used for high-speed communications that is suitable for the transmission of voice, video, and data information. The other term I'd just like to update you on is what are called branch loops, or in our case, station branch loops, which are just a grouping of stations that are tied together. You can think of it sort of like a pearl necklace, where the pearls are the stations, and the string that holds the pearls together is the fiber optic cable, which is linking the stations together. So we're anticipating or projecting substantial completion of this project in June, slightly delayed from our earlier projection of February, and I'll talk about the reason for that delay when I get to the next slide. There's also a slight increase of about $800,000 in the budget. At this point, the project is almost completely tested. 45 out of 47 of these station branch loops are done, and over the next 6 months we'll be completing testing of all of the remaining stations, submitting them for beneficial use, and hopefully achieving substantial completion. The reason for the delay in the job is due to the submittal of as-built drawings, which were delayed because of an issue with an installation subcontractor who is responsible for producing the bulk of the field as-built drawings. We need those as-built drawings for substantial completion so that when our maintenance people take over responsibility for maintaining the system at substantial completion, they have all of the information they need in order to be able to achieve that task. You can see from this chart of the remaining workflow, the longest path is that line in the middle that extends all the way out to substantial completion, and that's the delivery of all the as-built drawings and as-built documentation, and we anticipate completing all of the other remaining tasks well before that is done.
In our review of this project, we substantially agree with the schedule and budget and the presentation of issues by Transit.
The second project I'd like to update you on, and you heard a little bit about it earlier, is the Public Address Customer Information System on the A Division, what some people affectionately refer to as countdown clocks. This project has achieved beneficial use as of the end of December 2011 for all 153 stations. The EAC is slightly lower than what was reported to you 6 months ago. Over the next 6 months, we'll be delivering some remaining cabinets that will be installed by MTA at Fulton and Cortlandt Street. We'll be completing the remaining punch list items and achieving substantial completion on this job as well. Substantial completion of this job is also slightly delayed because the same installation subcontractor that was involved in the previous job was also involved in this job. So we had the same issue with their inability to produce the as-built documentation necessary for our maintenance people to accept the system and maintain the system post-substantial completion.
Our review of this project, we substantially agree with the schedule and budget presented by Transit. Look forward to its completion in April.
Any questions?
Yes. Correct. Correct. They had some financial issues which essentially shuttered them on this project.
Historically, we've had a problem with as-built. At the end of the run, we have to hold their feet to the fire to do them, even though it's a contract requirement. But historically, we've had problems with as-built.
How much of a retention do you have on that contract?
5%, the standard 5%. It's a little over $6 million retention right now.
That's an incentive.
That is an incentive, yes.
Sometimes it isn't.
Any further questions, comments? Okay, moving right along, we're now going to have a quarterly report on our MWDBE participation. Michael Garner is coming up. No, it's not, but it's got a piece of cardboard on the bottom. Well, tell him, ask him how it works. I don't, not really. Michael, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you need the lights on, or are you going to directly do a presentation?
Actually, I can read. I think I can read it with the lights out.
Okay.
Essentially,
So are you going to have one up here?
Yes.
Yeah.
The first slide on the MWDB.
Thank you.
No.
You can't read them. You can't read them on the.
Oh, it's in the book? Okay. All right. The lights, please. Okay. Well, we wanted to look at our tab 3, our MWDBE results for the past year. Actually, in the first section, there is an annual goal that was submitted to the FTA that we outlined 17%. We actually achieved 11%, and I will further explain why. If you look at the state's results, it was a 15% M and WBE goal. We achieved 16%. In the pre-CPOC meeting, the chairman wanted us to look at the reason why our DBE goal was not achieved, and it was a mega project that was awarded, in which there were a finite few of DBE firms in the marketplace to support a higher goal. So we basically looked at that project and knocked it out. And if it's not there, we would have achieved a 18% result as opposed to the 17% goal. And so what that says is that it is a lot better for us to create opportunities for DBE firms by issuing them prime contracts as opposed to them working at the mercy of a large contractor as a subcontractor. And so we are going to in fact talk about creating a FTA small business mentoring program during the next slide. So we were approached by a News One to do a story on our mentoring program, and I want you to sit back and look at the clip, because this is a new paradigm in which we are finally awarding prime contracts to New York State certified M and WBE firms.
U.S. nearly 30 years ago, not speaking a word of English with only a few $100s. He eventually built a small construction company, which he said the MTA helped him to triple in size.
I never thought I could get a bigger job. This is an excellent opportunity for me.
Irfan says the program taught him how to run his business professionally. Then it helped him get the financing to compete and win one of the 30 MTA construction projects offered to small businesses in the program. In May, he won the nearly $700,000 contract to redo the exterior of the Manhattanville bus depot. MTA managers have coached him every step of the way.
We have the professional people are involved in these projects. We are learning and we are growing. So I'm happy.
Michael Gardner created the mentoring program for the MTA less than 2 years ago. The MTA could not immediately say how much the program cost the agency, but claims it is cost effective.
For the first time in history here, the smaller minority women-owned firms are now getting prime contract opportunities and doing well. And so essentially, if you open the door, these small firms can come in and do a great job.
Gardner says the MTA's goal is to do $100 million a year in business with minority and women-owned companies in the next 5 years.
It is a win for us because we are building a larger pool of qualified contractors who can finish our projects safely, timely, on budget. And the firms, they will grow, they will hire more employees, and they will pay more taxes.
To apply to the program, a contractor needs 2 years of experience and can't make more than $3 million annually. The MTA says there is no limit on the number of contractors it can mentor. To find out more, log on to mta.info. Tina Redwine, New York 1.
Just like me, huh? Okay. So the goal of our program is to create a larger pool of qualified, diverse contractors who can finish our projects safely, timely, and on budget. And basically, if you look at all of the impediments that small businesses face, capital, bonding, we have a one-stop shopping program right now, which is going to allow us to award a record number of contracts to state-certified firms. Let me say also, basically, that there's a loan program, a bonding program, a cost-effective OSIP insurance program, a training program, And so we are going to create a larger pool. And basically, there is a prompt response by the operating agencies in which they are awarding these projects in a period of 5 days. We are training our contractors. Yes, we are. Well, the goal of the training program is to train the contractors how to do business the MTA way, and to train the owners how to become better business people.
But not in 4 year training.
No. The actual elements of the program is the SBMP. We are now talking to the FTA about creating a small business mentoring program on our federally funded projects, because our current program is only for our state funded projects. Also, we are going to do outreach in every county that we do business in. There are currently 142 firms in the program right now. 73 of those firms have gone through our training program. Our loan program, there was one loan approved thus far, but there's 8 loans in the pipeline right now. And in the 12 county regions that this program is geared to, there were a total of 389 jobs created in those counties.
Thank you, Michael. Just to give you a summary of the projects awarded to date, Year 1, we have awarded 25 projects worth about $13.6 million, out of which 10 have been either substantially completed or closed out. In Year 2, we have awarded 7 projects worth about $3.1 million, and there are 5 that are out for bid or are in the phase of award. Out of this 32 projects that we have awarded so far, 75% of those projects have been awarded to MWDBE. They're certified by either the state, the city, or DBE certified by the MTA. We have also developed a performance matrix to gauge ourselves and our performance as to how we are doing to help these contractors. The parameters we set ourselves to are the payments. The goal was 10 days to pay in 10. We've been doing it in little over 5 days from submission of their complete package for payment. Jobs have to be awarded within 10 days from the bid opening. We've been awarding it on an average 10.4 days. That is slightly high only because there are certain projects that needed double tech qualification hearing. We needed to bring them in or had to disqualify a bidder and had to go to the second bid. The closeouts, we have set ourselves a goal of 20 working days. We've been doing it in 17.3 days, closing out a job from a contractor once she has completed the punch list and finally closing out the job. Change orders, 15 days. We are slightly over that. Processing change orders, we need to do a little better than that. Submittals and requests for information, we are under the 10 and 5 days respectively. This is our commitment plan per agency for year 1. We had estimated at $15.14 million. We awarded $13.5 or $13.6 million versus year 2, we have currently estimated at $17.1 million, and this is a breakdown of how the agencies have participated. Our keys to the success of this program was, one is MTA taking responsibility, in which we simplified our processes and procedures. We understood our roles and shared what the responsibilities of the contractors was going to be with the contractors in our training programs, and quick turnaround of whatever we had to do, like payments, submittals, etc. The transparency was an important factor. So to maximize the opportunities for these contractors within our program and across the MTA, because we publicize the list of these approved contractors on our website, and that has encouraged our larger contractors to come and seek out the smaller ones to meet their MWDBE goals. We also publicize our projects awarded date on the website, of which you have a handout that was handed out, and that is periodically updated as well. And finally, we want our program to continuously improve upon, and therefore we get a contractor feedback at the end of a project when they're finished. We get a three-way conversation between the contractor, the agency, and the MTA. And for this program, 10 days.
Thanks, Emil. And I wanted to brief you on our FTA program, in which we are in current conversation right now. There was a conference call as recent as last Friday in which we're still trying to work out the details of the program. But we are very optimistic that by June of this year, we are going to be bidding projects on projects that's funded by the FTA in order to drive contract awards up to certified DBE firms. We are finalizing the policies right now. These contracts will total up to $3 million. There's a new bonding program that we are currently crafting right now. The training program, the goal of this program, once again, is to ensure that our contractors are finishing our job safely, timely, and on budget. The operating agencies right now are debundling projects in order to feed this program. At next month's board meeting, we are going to come to the board with a cost plan to finance this new program. And the first targeted bidding project in this program is going to be in June of this year. This actual program is not a city-based program, but it's going to be a 14-county program. So we are going to be coming to each one of the counties and getting firms to apply for the program, so we can create contracting opportunities for our MWDB firms in our 14-county region. Training, as stated before, is going to be a training program that's going to create a better contractor who can finish our projects safely, timely, and on budget. Let me also talk a minute about the Port Jervis project. That project was finished on a real cost-effective, transparent manner, and the largest subcontract award on that project was awarded to a state-certified firm for a total of $475,000. And I want to thank Metro North, Chuck Hansen, and Tony Bombays for making sure that process was an inclusive process. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any questions? Thanks. Anyone? Michael, you had mentioned at the very beginning when you were going over the MWB statistics that you were able to break it out to be able to achieve 18% if we excluded one of the megas.
Yes. Yes.
Which one?
It was the Second Avenue.
Second Subway.
Second Avenue Subway,
yes.
And the main contractor there is Skanska.
Skanska, right.
All right. We need to. Okay. Thanks. Yes, Mr. Powell.
Surprise to you, Michael, the significant difficulty with MBWB firms becoming subs to general contractors, because it's clear, at least from the numbers you see here, that is a significant problem.
Right.
That it's much easier for MTA to award them a specific contract ourselves than to assume a general contractor is going to give it from one of their pots.
Right. You know, the history here has been that the large contractors would rather self-perform their work as opposed to subbing out various portions of their work. So they have asked for goal waivers and goal reductions. We are taking a very, very hard stance about not granting goal waivers at the expense of our MWDBE efforts. But it is a lot better for us if we award contracts to our MWDB populations as opposed to getting the large contractors to sub out portions of their work that they would rather do using their own forces.
Because I assume, I mean, at least I've seen in the contract, most of the contracts, the large contracts that we have awarded, that there are guidelines, goals, whatever terminology you want to use, and I'm not using the word legally.
Yes.
Requirements, for a certain percentage of MWB, WBE usage.
Yes.
And that seems to be a significant problem. Either the numbers are too big to start with, or the contractor accepts the original number knowing full well they're never going to get to it. And we're not going to hold them accountable for not getting to it.
Okay, two points. One of the challenges of running a federal program out of Washington as a one-size-fit-all program, the DBE program, is a lot different doing business in Manhattan, Kansas than it is doing business in a large market like New York, because the average DBE firm who is certified, they don't have bonding, they don't have capital, and they can't work on a $100 million subcontract. That's one. Second, we have essentially included ourselves now in the final evaluation process of our contractors. And so if a contractor fails to live up to their MWDB inclusion plan, we can now, if they fail in 2 areas out of 5 areas, we can ban them from bidding now. And so we're sending them a very, very strong message that we are taking this program extremely serious, and that we are the goals that's going to be set are the goals that's going to be achieved.
I think that's great. I would ask, Mr. Chairman, if it's possible that as we award contracts to companies that have already had contracts with us, is if we include in the staff summary their experience with our MBE, WBE scenario, so we can see whether they met the criteria on their original contract or not. I think that would be helpful to those of us who are guided by that to see this company did or this company didn't or whatever the reasons were. But I think that would be a very pertinent piece of information to have as we go forward, because many of our contractors, at least on the bigger projects, tend to be the same contractors.
Right.
And knowing that information, I think, would be very helpful.
Right. And Mitch, finally, there are just certain trades in this city, like doing underground work, where there are a finite few DBE firms. So we're going to create this mentor program in order to build a larger pool of contractors who can support our goals.
Right. Okay.
Mitch, we will include that information.
If you're a general contractor, you're putting a building up, you employ so many people from different contractors doing different tasks, plumbers, electricians,
Right.
carpenters. There's hundreds of them. So it's you have a much easier time making your quota because you have a pool of contractors who
Right.
can get them. But if you're an individual contractor who does a specific task and you get awarded a paving contract and they have crews that have been working together for years, and there's only like 5 guys to the crew, and they have different functions that they do, it's hard to meet that task without having a mentoring program. When you have one individual there where you're training to do that, so I think that it's hard to look at it to give them a certain percentage of if you give 20% of the company, I mean, you require 20%, there's 5 guys in the crew, you got to get rid of one guy, put another guy in. I think it's easier if you have a minority company and he comes in and does a trade like in a building, like sheetrocking or plumbing,
Mhm.
and all that. So there's so many different variables in the construction industry, it's hard to really, do it. But I think you're doing a great job, and I think you're getting in. I think the mentoring program is important because there's a lot. It gets more people into the construction trade.
Right.
Whereas a whole company is hard to hire.
Great, thank you.
Any further questions?
You mentioned that you had innovated ways of dealing with the agency that facilitated the MDBE's ability to succeed, that is streamlining process and so forth.
Right.
I know that was an overall goal of the agency as well, even for the major contractors, and I'm wondering whether that knowledge and learning is filtering up.
Yeah, let me, it's exactly the right question. We were just recently talking, we did a little briefing with the chairman on some of our ideas for streamlining. This is the right approach. Whether we can get this basic on our larger jobs, maybe not, but I think it certainly creates a path that we're trying to mine to bring more efficiencies to our larger jobs. The notion of simplifying terms and conditions, of setting standards for the amount of time it should take to get things done. All of those things are we're looking at, and Ron is driving with the chief engineers in their regular meetings.
Thank you, Michael.
Michael, were you saying earlier that we, a state agency, are now less bureaucratic than the federal government in this area? If so, that's quite a compliment for us, you know.
I might add to that as well that the FTA has come to us to look at our programs to determine how we're getting them done, so they can take what Michael and his team have done and roll it out across the country at other transit authorities. So we have a lot to be proud of in addition to the awards that are we're receiving. We're also a real pace setter in this area. But we're nowhere near as efficient as Mark's Office of Management and Budget. I know that.
You know, and as recent as last week, the FTA they forwarded an email to us, and they forwarded our mentor program business model to the White House as recent as Friday.
Thank you, Michael. Thank you, Emil. And Linda, the capital program status update.
So there are two pieces of capital program monitoring that I promised at our last meeting, which ran over, you may remember, so we said we would move it to this meeting, which once again is running over, but let me quickly go over these. One is the traffic light report, and we've included it again in the book this month. You may remember that we used to do something called exception reports, and whenever we reported on projects, we'd have a page, and it said projects that were met a certain standard of being over budget, and we've now over budget or over schedule. We've now created a more defined report for reporting on these. We monthly, as you know, come to you with what we call monitoring reports on the large or complicated projects. So today you heard about signals, but we didn't want to leave the other smaller work, less complicated, without reports. So we do this traffic light report, and any project that's $5 million or more gets reported in the traffic light report, unless it's one of the projects that we monitor, and those you hear about on a more regular basis. The traffic light report gives us an early indication of whether a report is either over budget, over schedule, or is otherwise showing issues that we should attend to. Based on these indices, we get one-page reports from the agencies as to what the problem is and what they're doing to mitigate the problem. And to the extent that we see a continuing problem, it gives us the opportunity to then add it to the IEC's monitoring responsibilities. So there are three ways that we evaluate projects: cost index, contingency index, which takes a little work, but in my view, it's a really good early indicator. If you have a contingency and you see yourself moving construction at spending contingency at a pace that exceeds the percentage of construction that's underway, it's a good sense that you may have to worry about the project, as well as schedule variance. And then we also indicate whether we see trending on any of these indices. We use three colors to report on indices. Green is there's no reason to look further. Red indicates for either cost or schedule, if it's in design, that it's 15% over what was estimated or 3 months longer. If it's in construction, it's slightly lower, percentage over, 10% over, but also or if it's 3 months. And then yellow is our way of tracking projects that had shown up as red but don't become don't raise any further red light. So it seems like they are stabilizing. We keep an eye on them. If we see them getting into deeper trouble, they would become projects that we would subsequently monitor.
Do you have a special color for East Side Access?
Those are part of our regular monitoring reports, not included in the traffic light report. So as I said, if we have red, it could generate a one-pager with a follow-up from the agency and could generate further review by the IEC. This just shows the results as shown in our last report, and the next page shows some of the ways that we hope to start looking at the data that we get from these reports. So this just took those that were red and looked at what the cause of the reds were. In some cases, a project may show more than one cause. It might show a cost and a schedule problem. This shows that most of what we saw was in the area of schedule delays, typically associated with design changes or approvals and site access, all things that, as I said before, in efforts that Ron is making with the independent engineer, things that we're looking to improve. Next steps with the traffic light report is when we started the traffic light report, we just looked at projects in construction, then we added in-house third-party construction, then we added in-house projects, and we added design projects. The next step is we're going to look at how long it takes for procurements and start paying attention and monitoring that. We're going to try and look at ways that we can mine this data to help inform the agencies of problems to watch out for, and we will be reporting back to you with the next traffic light report in March. The second bit of business that's in the book is the commitments and completion report. This is the year-end report. As you can see, I've added a new color to this. It's the red hatched. In reports starting next year, it will be yellow. What that shows is it was a commitment that was delayed or a completion that was delayed, but it has subsequently occurred. So I didn't want you to think that all of those remain projects that hadn't actually gotten committed or completed. As you can see, between the crosshatched and the green, we committed 58% of our work. That's 52 commitments. Looking down below, you can see that Long Island Railroad made all of theirs, and that Bridges and Tunnels made nearly all of their commitments on time. For completions, we completed 69%. And similarly, looking at the bottom, you can see Long Island Railroad did an especially good job of making their completions. The next page talks about a subject we've talked about at every reporting opportunity, which is we're getting bids substantially better than budget, and so that's allowing us to save money, which applies to the $2 billion reduction that we're hoping to accomplish in the last years of the program. The next page just shows some of the highlights in the commitment area, some of the larger projects that we have actually committed, and some of the areas where we've experienced slips. And similarly, the following page does the same thing for completions. I want to get to the last page of this, which talks about some of the delays. In commitments, we tend to see it's the large projects that are getting delayed. We've evaluated that as being extended procurement, requiring additional scope analysis, or in some cases, again, because we're putting such pressure on the agencies to do things as efficiently as possible, there's resequencing to better match with other work. Corrective actions, especially for complicated projects, we need to leave more time for procurement negotiation. We need to strengthen the scope and alternatives analysis, which is something being done through our GATES process. We need to be sure that in advance we're better coordinating interrelated projects. And for commitments, we need to secure the capital program because our anticipation is we have an approved capital program in the second quarter, and that commitments will continue apace from then on. For completion, we see issues regarding right-of-way availability and resource availability. This is work that you know from other presentations we've made to CPOC that we're trying to address on a more programmatic level to figure out how we can provide more productive time on task along the right-of-way. You've seen that in Transit's project to provide access over extended periods to right-of-way work. And in some cases, it's contractor performance, and that's about working more closely with our contractors. So these reports will continue. Next month will be the first of the commitment reports for the new year, and that is the business of the reports.
Are there any questions for Linda?
Executive session.
Being none, I'd like to move into executive session according to Open Meetings Law, Section 105F. To discuss a matter leading to the appointment, employment, promotion, demotion, demotion, discipline, suspension, dismissal, or removal of a particular person or a corporation. Second. All in favor? Aye. We're in executive session. Just everybody turn.